The old pickup truck rolled into the garage just minutes before closing time, its engine coughing and rattling like it was begging for one last chance. What happened over the next 24 hours would change a struggling single father's life forever. A wealthy CEO refused to pay him a simple $199 repair bill, humiliated him in front of everyone, and drove away convinced she had won. But by sunrise the next morning, a black luxury sedan arrived at the garage carrying a man whose decision would leave the entire town speechless. Before we begin, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire if you believe kindness, hard work, and second chances still matter in today's world. Stories like this remind us that character is worth more than money. The town of Ashford was the kind of place where people still waved at strangers and remembered each other's names. Nestled between rolling fields and quiet highways, it was a place where life moved slowly. In a small garage on the edge of town worked a mechanic named Ryder Calloway. Ryder was 38 years old and raising his 9-year-old daughter, Tessa, alone. 3 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him heartbroken and overwhelmed. Since then, every day felt like a balancing act between being a father and keeping his struggling repair shop alive. The garage wasn't fancy. The paint was peeling from the walls. The waiting room chairs were worn. The coffee machine worked only when it felt like it. But Ryder had something many businesses lacked. He had integrity. Customers trusted him because he never charged for unnecessary repairs. If a part could be fixed instead of replaced, he fixed it. If someone couldn't afford a repair immediately, he worked out a payment plan. In a world obsessed with profit, Ryder still believed people mattered. Unfortunately, kindness didn't pay bills. Business had slowed dramatically that year. A large corporate service center had opened 30 miles away, stealing many customers. Bills piled up on Ryder's desk. His mortgage payment was overdue. The electricity company had sent another warning notice. Still, every morning he opened the garage doors with a smile because Tessa depended on him. One sunny Tuesday afternoon, a sleek silver SUV pulled into the parking lot. Even before the driver stepped out, everyone knew it belonged to someone important. The woman who emerged wore an expensive tailored suit and designer sunglasses. Her confidence seemed to fill the entire lot. Her name was Victoria Sterling, founder and CEO of one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the state. Victoria had built a reputation as a brilliant businesswoman. She was featured in magazines, interviewed on television, and admired by investors. But she was also known for being demanding, impatient, and fiercely competitive. She explained that her SUV had suddenly begun overheating during a business trip. Every larger repair center nearby was booked for days. Ryder inspected the vehicle and quickly discovered a damaged cooling hose and a faulty thermostat. The repair was straightforward. He worked through his lunch break and had the vehicle running perfectly within a few hours. When Victoria returned that evening, Ryder handed her the invoice. The total came to $199. What should have been a simple transaction turned into a moment Ryder would never forget. Victoria stared at the invoice as if it were an insult. Her expression hardened. She insisted the charge was unreasonable. She claimed the repair couldn't possibly cost that much. She questioned Ryder's honesty, his pricing, and his professionalism. Employees and customers nearby watched awkwardly as the situation escalated. Ryder remained calm. He explained every part used and every labor charge. He even showed the damaged components removed from the vehicle. But nothing changed her mind. Finally, Victoria refused to pay altogether. She accused him of trying to take advantage of her and declared that she would not give him a single dollar. Then she climbed into her SUV and drove away. The silence left behind felt heavier than any argument. For most wealthy people, $199 was insignificant. For Ryder, it represented groceries, utility payments, and part of Tessa's school expenses. As the taillights disappeared down the road, he felt something inside him sink. Not anger. Disappointment. He had spent years helping strangers, and now someone with more money than he could imagine had decided his work had no value. That night, after closing the garage, Ryder picked up Tessa from soccer practice. She noticed the sadness in his eyes immediately. Children often see pain adults try to hide. During dinner, she slipped a small folded note beside his plate. It read, "You're the best dad in the world. Things always get better." Ryder smiled despite everything. He tucked the note into his wallet. Later that evening, after Tessa fell asleep, Ryder sat alone in the garage office reviewing unpaid bills. The numbers blurred together. He wondered how much longer he could keep fighting. Across town, however, another story was unfolding. Victoria arrived at the sprawling Sterling family estate for dinner with her father, Theodore Sterling. Unlike his daughter, Theodore rarely appeared in the spotlight. At 72 years old, he had built a manufacturing empire long before Victoria launched her technology company. Despite possessing enormous wealth, Theodore remained humble. He remembered growing up poor. He respected working people because he had once been one himself. During dinner, Victoria casually mentioned her encounter with the mechanic. She expected sympathy. Instead, her father's face grew serious. As she described refusing payment, Theodore listened silently. When she finished, the room felt strangely cold. Theodore asked only one question. Had the mechanic completed the repair correctly? Victoria admitted he had. Had he charged a fair price? Again, she admitted yes. Theodore set down his fork. For a long moment, he stared through the dining room window. Then he quietly excused himself. That night he made several phone calls. One led to another. And another. By midnight, he had learned something remarkable about Ryder Calloway. He discovered the mechanic's reputation throughout Ashford. He learned about families Ryder had helped during emergencies. He learned about elderly customers whose vehicles he repaired for free. He learned about scholarship donations made anonymously to struggling students. Most importantly, he learned that Ryder never spoke about these acts publicly. He simply helped because it was the right thing to do. Theodore barely slept. By sunrise, his decision was made. The next morning began like every other for Ryder. He unlocked the garage. Turned on the lights. Started the coffee machine. And prepared for another difficult day. At exactly 8:03 a.m., a long black luxury sedan entered the parking lot. Employees stopped what they were doing. People stared. Theodore Sterling stepped out. Ryder recognized him immediately from newspaper articles. Confused, he walked forward. The elderly businessman shook his hand warmly. Then he asked if they could speak privately. Inside the office, Theodore listened as Ryder explained the previous day's events. He never complained. He never insulted Victoria. He simply stated the facts. Theodore nodded. Then he placed a thick envelope on the desk. Ryder assumed it contained payment for the repair. Perhaps even an apology. What he found inside nearly made him fall out of his chair. A certified check. $19 million. For several seconds, he couldn't breathe. He thought it had to be some kind of mistake. Theodore explained everything. Years earlier, he had created a private investment fund dedicated to supporting exceptional people whose integrity strengthened their communities. Most recipients were teachers, first responders, healthcare workers, and small business owners. After learning about Ryder's character, Theodore believed he had found someone worthy. The $19 million wasn't charity. It was an investment in a man who had already spent years investing in others. Tears filled Ryder's eyes. He looked at the check. Then at the photographs of Tessa taped to his office wall. Every sleepless night. Every sacrifice. Every struggle. Every moment he had chosen honesty over profit. Suddenly, it all mattered. News spread quickly across Ashford. But what moved people most wasn't the money. It was the reason behind it. Theodore later explained publicly that wealth means nothing if it isn't used to recognize character. He said the world already rewards power and influence. What it often forgets to reward is decency. Over the following months, Ryder transformed his life and his community. He expanded the garage and hired local workers. He established apprenticeship programs for young mechanics. He created emergency repair funds for struggling families. He paid off debts for several widows and veterans in town. And through it all, he remained the same humble father who showed up every morning with grease-stained hands and a grateful heart. As for Victoria, the experience changed her too. Watching her father honor a mechanic she had dismissed forced her to confront uncomfortable truths about herself. Over time, she became more compassionate, more grounded, and more aware of the people behind the services she used every day. Years later, visitors entering Ryder's garage noticed a small framed note hanging beside the office door. It wasn't the $19 million check. It wasn't a newspaper article. It wasn't an award. It was Tessa's handwritten message from that difficult night. "You're the best dad in the world. Things always get better." And somehow, those 6 words had predicted everything. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Your support helps bring more inspiring stories about resilience, family, and hope to people around the world. Special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe good people deserve to be rewarded, even when no one is watching. Because sometimes life changes not because of luck, talent, or power, but because someone chooses integrity when nobody else would. And while money can transform circumstances, it is character that transforms destinies. Ryder Calloway never became rich because he chased wealth. He became rich because he spent years building something far more valuable, a reputation of honesty, compassion, and unwavering love for his daughter. In the end, the world simply returned a fraction of what he had already given away. And that is why the most powerful investments are never made in businesses. They are made in people. Red Heart.